practice listening to real conversations in English with people from around the world. Welcome to Conversations in English. All right, so welcome to Conversations in English. And today we are speaking with Manish from India. And I am your host, Wendy. Manish, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure, why not? Hello, my name is Manish. I am from India, and in India, I belongs to Rajasthan. Rajasthan is the biggest state in India, and it has rich culture. And Rajasthan is famous for forts and delicious cuisine, and its clothes. And we also have so many festivals. So there is a lot of things in Rajasthan to do.
Mhm.
So make sure you travel to Rajasthan next time if you want to visit India.
Okay, all right. You're going to open an Airbnb and you can invite people in and host them. Okay, so I know that you teach online. So can you tell me where people can find you if they're interested in learning the languages you teach? What languages do you teach and how can people find you?
Ah, I teach Hindi
Mhm.
on italki. You will find my italki link just right below the description of the video or in the subtitles of the video. You can find it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay,
let me.
very good. Okay, so what is our conversation topic going to be today? What would you like to talk
I want to talk about how students should learn a language
about? Mhm.
because I think this question, every learner have this question.
Mhm.
So I think we should talk about this question more and maybe we can elaborate something or maybe we will be able to provide some solution or some steps to
Mhm.
learn a language effectively.
Good. Okay, so what are some suggestions you give to your students when they are beginning or in the middle of learning Hindi? What kinds of suggestions do you give them?
Okay, for the solution, okay, first let's talk about an intermediate or any level somewhere middle in their Hindi journey because
Mhm.
most of people have already started their Hindi language learning.
Mhm.
So let's talk about them first. So first of all, every student needs to know his or her level in Hindi.
Mhm.
And after knowing that, you need to know how much grammar you know. Because I think a language totally depends on grammar.
Mhm.
Because with the grammar, you can make so many kind of sentences. Like if you only know tense, then with a single sentence, you will be able to make 20 sentences.
Mhm.
So that's a very useful thing, I think.
Mhm.
So you can
Okay.
cover 20% or 20 to 30% of a language with
Mhm.
only tenses and pronouns.
Mhm.
And after learning grammar, you need to go for conversation straight.
Okay.
Okay,
And do you ever offer suggestions to your students about how to study or how to learn a language? Like what types of suggestions do you give them as far as material?
okay. For the materials, I think first you need to know the reading part because if you know the reading, you will be able to read or able to absorb most of the language content. Hmm. For the materials, you should use the reading content, or maybe you should go for any social media account. First, you need to make a social media account, and then you need to find the native speakers.
Mhm.
And you should try to read their posts
Mhm.
because they post in Hindi. So, and they also post in their daily language. So you don't need to worry. Like, uh, if you study those sentences, then while a conversation or during a conversation, the second person who is listening will not think like you are reading from a book.
Right,
This
right.
problem is a very common because when we learn a language, then normally we learn its other like it's a pure structure.
I have noticed that when people learn English from a textbook, it always has this sort of strange sound to it. Like there's this formality that just feels very old. And sometimes people
Hmm.
will use idioms that my great grandparents would have used. And if they were to say these idioms to my children would have no idea what they even mean because they got them from a textbook from, 50, 60 years
Yeah.
ago. So I think that's a great point to use current material to practice a language. I think that's a really great point.
As a learner, I'm also learning Vietnamese language.
Hmm.
So from the very beginning, for a beginner, first we need to learn the alphabets and the sounds. Like Vietnamese is a tonal language. It
Hmm.
took me 2 months to master all those tones
Hmm.
because tones, I think I just learned the alphabet first, then I go for the tones because tones are the major thing in Vietnamese because maybe the spelling is the same, but with a different tone, it can change the meaning completely.
Hmm.
So that's why tones are important. So first you need to go for the alphabets, then you need to think like what is the most important thing. Like if you are learning Hindi, then Hindi is a phonetic language, which means it just it will be read the same as it is written.
Hmm.
So there will be no silent letters or anything like that. So it will be easy. For Hindi, you should go for the alphabet first. Then you need to go for the simple sentences or simple words. Then you
Hmm.
need to learn pronouns. Then you need to go for the tenses.
Hmm.
That will make a complete structure or a complete base for your learning.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, while you are learning, so to not to feel demotivated about your learning, you need to check out the post and some cultural video about the country or the part you are visiting.
Hmm.
India is a very diverse country. So India has 29 states in total. So you will find 29 different cultures in India
Hmm.
and 29 different languages. Actually, we have so many languages here,
Hmm.
but mm, we have like more than 20 official languages in India. But with Hindi, you can communicate in the northern part and the eastern and the western part and some part of the central India.
Hmm.
So with Hindi, you can cover this part.
So is Hindi your first language or is that not your first language?
Actually, Hindi is not my first language. I usually use my local language, which is Marwari.
Hmm.
But I also study, I also have studied Hindi in schools and in my college.
Hmm.
Like people normally use their local languages here,
Hmm.
and but people can understand Hindi and they can also speak it well.
Hmm.
So by learning Hindi, you can communicate with many people.
Hmm. Okay, well, that's great. I really appreciate your time.